Hello viewers, I Nilofer Zirgam welcomes you again to the second part on monopolistic competition. In the second unit of monopolistic competition, we shall discuss the price output equilibrium under monopolistic competition in long run and short run, group equilibrium and determination of price output equilibrium under monopolistic competition compared with that under perfect competition. A firm under monopolistic competition has to face various problems which are absent under perfect competition. Since the market of an individual firm under perfect competition is completely merged with the journal one, it can sell any amount of the good at the ruling market price. But under monopolistic competition, individual firm's market is isolated to a certain degree from those its rival, with the result that its sales depends upon first, its price, second, the nature of its product, third, the advertising outlay it makes. Thus, the firm under monopolistic competition has to face a more complicated problem than the purely competitive firm. Equilibrium of an individual firm under monopolistic competition involves equilibrium in three respects, that is, in regard to the price and the output, the nature of the product, and the amount of advertising outlay it should make. However, in this section, we shall confine ourselves to explaining the equilibrium of the firm with regard to price and output. The demand curve for the product of an individual firm under monopolistic competition, as noted above, is downward sloping. Since the various firms underproduce products which are close substitutes of each other, the position and elasticity of the demand curve for the product of any of them depends upon the availability of competing substitutes and their prices. Therefore, the equilibrium adjustment of an individual firm cannot be defined in isolation from the journal field of which it is a part. However, for sake of simplicity in analysis, conditions regarding the availability of substitutes produced by the rival firm and prices charged for them are held constant, while the equilibrium adjustment of an individual firm is considered in isolation. Since close substitutes of a product of an individual firm are available in market, the demand curve for the product of an individual firm working under conditions of monopolistic competition is fairly elastic. Thus, although a firm under monopolistic competition has a monopolistic control over its variety of the product, but its control over price is limited by the fact that there are close substitutes available in the market, and that if it sets to a high price for its product, many of its customers will shift to the rival products. Assuming the conditions with respect to all substitutes, such as their nature and prices being constant, the demand curve for the product of a firm will be given. We further suppose that the product of a particular firm is held constant. Only variables are price and output in respect of each equilibrium adjustment is to be made. The individual equilibrium under monopolistic competition is graphically shown in figure 2.1. AR is a demand curve or average revenue curve for the product of an individual firm, the nature and prices of all substitutes being given. SAC represents the short-run average cost curve of the firm, while SMC is the short-run marginal cost curve corresponding to it. It may be recalled that the average cost curve first falls due to internal economies and then rises due to internal diseconomies. Given these demand and the cost conditions, a firm will adjust its price and output at the level which gives its maximum total profits. Theory of value under monopolistic competition is based upon the profit maximization principle, as it is the theory of value under perfect competition. Thus, a firm under monopolistic competition, in order to maximize profits, will equate marginal cost with the marginal revenue. In figure 2.1, the firm will fix its level of output at OM, because at OM, output marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue. The demand curve AR facing the firm in question indicates the output OM can be sold at a price MS equals to OP. Therefore, the determined price will evidently be MS or OP. In this equilibrium position, by fixing his price at OP and output at OM, the firm is making profits equal to the area HTSP, which is the maximum. It may be recalled that profits HTSP are in excess of the normal profits. For normal profits necessary to secure the entrepreneur's services are included in the average cost curve SAC. Thus, the area HTSP measures the amount of supernormal profits made by the firm. In the short run, the firm is in equilibrium, may make supernormal profits as shown in figure 2.1. above, but it may make losses too if the demand condition for its products are not so favorable relative to the cost conditions. Figure 2.2 depicts the case of a firm, the demand or the average revenue curve DD for whose product lies below the average cost curve throughout, indicating thereby that no output of the product can be produced at positive profits. However, the firm is in equilibrium at output ON and setting price NK or OT, because by fixing price at OT and output at ON, it is rendering the losses to be minimum. In such an unfavorable situation, there is no alternative for the firm except to make the best of the bad bargain and tries to minimize the losses. We thus see that a firm in equilibrium under monopolistic competition, as under pure or perfect competition, may be making supernormal profits or a loss depending upon the position of the demand curve relative to the position of the average cost curve. Further, a firm may be making only normal profits even in the short run if the demand curve, that is AR curve, happens to be tangent to the average cost curve. It should be carefully noted that in individual equilibrium of the firm, both in figure 2.1 and figure 2.2, the firm having once fixed price at OP and OT respectively will have no tendency to vary the price anymore. If it varies its price upward, the loss due to fall in quantity demanded will be more than made by the higher price. If it cuts down its price, the gain due to the increase in the quantity demanded will be less than the loss due to the lower price. Hence, price will remain stable at OP and OT in the two cases respectively. There is a significant difference between price output equilibrium under monopolistic competition and perfect competition. The price under perfect competition is equal to marginal cost, but this is not so under monopolistic or imperfect competition. The firm under monopolistic competition, unlikely perfectly competitive firm, faces a downward sloping average revenue curve and his marginal revenue curve lies below average revenue curve. Therefore, in equilibrium under monopolistic competition, when marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue, it is less than price or average revenue. From figure 2.1, it will be noticed that at equilibrium output OM, marginal cost and the marginal revenue are equal, and both are here equal to ME, but price fixed is MS or OP, which is greater than the marginal cost ME. It thus follows that the price under monopolistic competition is greater than marginal cost. But it is worth pointing out, although price under monopolistic competition will not be equal to marginal cost, it will stand in the following relation to the marginal cost, and the relation is price equals to MC times E by E minus 1, where E is the elasticity of demand. When we explain the long-run price-output equilibrium of the firm working under monopolistic competition, we in fact explain how the group of the firm producing a differentiated product comes to be in equilibrium. In other words, we have now to explain how the equilibrium adjustment of the prices and output of a number of firms whose products are close substitutes comes about. As explained, each firm within a group has a monopoly of its own particular product, yet its market is interwoven with those of its competitor who produce closely related products. The interdependence of the various products upon one another is a prominent feature of monopolistic competition. A difficulty faced in describing the group equilibrium is the vast diversity of conditions which exist in respect of the many matters between the various firms constituting the group. The product of each firm has special characteristics and is adapted to the taste and preferences of its consumers. The qualitative differences among the products lead to the large variation in cost and demand curves of the various firms. The demand curves of the various firms differ in respect of shape and position. As a result of these heterogeneous conditions surrounding each firm, there will be differences in prices, in outputs, scales of production, and the profits of the various firms in the group. In order to simplify the analysis of equilibrium, Chamberlain ignores these diverse conditions surrounding each firm and takes an assumption, what has been called uniformity assumption. Thus, Chamberlain says, "We therefore proceed under the heroic assumption that both demand and cost curves for all the products are uniform throughout the group." Further, to facilitate exposition of his theory, Chamberlain introduces a further assumption which has been called symmetry assumption. It is that the number of firms being large under monopolistic competition and individual firms' action regarding price and output adjustment will have a negligible effect upon his numerous competitors, so that they will not think of retaliation for readjusting their prices and output. He thus says, especially, we assume for the present that any adjustment of price or product by a single producer spreads its influence over so many of its competitors that the impact felt by one is negligible and does not lead him to any readjustment of his own situation. A price cut, for instance, which increases the sales of who makes it, draws inappreciable amounts from the markets of each of his many competitors, achieving a considerable result for the one who makes a price cut, but without making incursions upon the market of any single competitor sufficient to cause him to do anything he would not have done anyway. The given above assumptions, we proceed to explain how under monopolistic competition an individual firm and a group of firms producing close substitutes come to be in equilibrium position. To begin with, suppose that the demand and the cost curve of each of the firm in the groups are AR and AC as depicted in figure 2.1. Each firm will set price OP and produce OM output at which marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue and hence profits are maximum. Although all firms are making supernormal profits, there is no reason for anyone to cut down price below OP because the sales gained thereby will be insufficient to make up the loss due to the lower price. These supernormal profits will, however, attract new firms into the field. When the new firms allured by the supernormal profits enjoyed by existing firms enter the field, the market would be shared between the more firms, and as a result, the demand curve or the average curve for the product of each firm will shift downward, that is, to the left. This process of entry of new firms and the resultant shift in the demand curve or the average revenue curve to the left will continue until the average revenue curve becomes tangent to the average cost curve, and thus the supernormal profits are completely wiped out. This is shown in figure 2.3, where average revenue curve is tangent to average cost curve at point T. Marginal cost and marginal revenue curves intersect each other exactly vertically below T. Therefore, the firm is in long-run equilibrium by setting price QT or OQ and producing OQ quantity of its product. Because average revenue is equal to average cost, the firm will be making only normal profits. Since all firms are alike in respect of demand and cost curves, by assumption, the average revenue of all will be tangent to their averages to their average cost curves, and all firms will therefore be earning only normal profits. Because only normal profits are occurring to the firms, there will be no more tendencies for the new competitors to enter the field, and the group as a whole will therefore be in equilibrium. It is useful to explain how price output equilibrium under monopolistic competition differs from that under perfect competition. Price is greater than MC under monopolistic competition. A significant difference between the two relates to the relation between price and marginal cost. Whereas in equilibrium under perfect competition, price is equal to marginal cost. In equilibrium under monopolistic competition, price is greater than the marginal cost. Since under the perfect competition, an individual firm cannot influence the price of its product and take price and given as constant, the demand or the average revenue curve is horizontal straight line and marginal revenue MR is equal to average revenue AR or price. Therefore, under perfect competition, when a firm equates marginal cost with the marginal revenue so as to maximize its profits, the former also becomes equal to price. On the other hand, under monopolistic competition, a firm exercises some control over the price of its product and the demand curve for it, representing prices at various quantities slopes downward. As a result, marginal revenue MR curve lies below the average revenue AR curve. Therefore, in order to maximize profits when a firm under monopolistic competition equates marginal cost with the marginal revenue, price stands at a higher level than the marginal cost. This is clear from figure 2.1, where in equilibrium, price determined is equal to MS or OP, which is greater than marginal cost ME. It should be noted that the producing level of output much less than at which marginal cost equals price implies a loss of social welfare. It should be noted that the social welfare is maximum when output is extended to the point where price is equal to the long run marginal cost. It will be seen from figure 2.4 that such point is G, where price or AR is equal to LMC, but will be seen from figure 2.4 firm produces OQ at which its profits are maximum. Thus, the area TEG represents the loss of social welfare, which is also called as dead weight loss. This indicates inefficiency of monopolistic competition. The long-run equilibrium under monopolistic competition is established at less than optimum size. Another important difference between the equilibrium under monopolistic competition and perfect competition is that whereas a firm in the long run equilibrium under monopolistic competition produces less than its optimum size of output, under perfect competition long run equilibrium of the firm is established at the minimum point of the long run average cost curve. In other words, a firm under perfect competition tends to be of the optimum size. But a firm under monopolistic competition, as is evident from figure 2.3, stops short of the optimum point and operates in the long run at the point at which average cost is still falling. In figure 2.4, the firm produces output OQ, while a firm under pure or perfect competition would have produced output OB at which average cost is minimum. The firm under monopolistic competition can reduce its cost of production by expanding output to the point B, but it will not do so because the expanding output beyond OQ will be reducing price more than the average cost. It is therefore clear that by producing OQ instead of OB in the long run, the firm under monopolistic competition does not use its capacity fully. The firm would be using its capacity fully if it produces optimum output OP. Thus, capacity equal to QB is lying unused in the firm under monopolistic competition. This unused capacity is called excess capacity, which is a prominent feature of equilibrium under monopolistic competition. Price under monopolistic competition is greater than the competitive price. Further, it may be noted that in the long run equilibrium, firms under monopolistic competition make only normal profits as under pure competition. But the price set under monopolistic competition is higher than the competitive price. Figure 2.3, price set in long run equilibrium under monopolistic competition is QT, while competitive price would have been equal to BF. This higher price under monopolistic competition is due to monopoly element contained in it. The monopoly element involved in monopolistic competition makes the demand or the average revenue curve facing an individual firm downward sloping, and a downward sloping average revenue curve can be tangent to the average cost curve only to the left of its minimum point. Thus, price under monopolistic competition will be higher than the competitive price due to the monopoly element in the monopolistic competition. But in spite of the higher price, a firm under monopolistic competition will not be making profits above normal in the long run. We may therefore say that a firm under monopolistic competition in the long run equilibrium changes higher price without enjoying monopoly profits. A significant result follows from this. It is that the non-existence of the abnormal profits is no indicator of the absence of monopoly element. In long run equilibrium under monopolistic competition, the firm has a monopoly power. It has a sole control over its own differentiated product, with the result that the demand curve for it slopes downward. But it does not make any supernormal profits. So finally, we have learned again today more fresh topics under monopolistic competition. In this chapter, we have discussed the price output equilibrium under monopolistic competition in long run and short run, group equilibrium, and determination of price output equilibrium under monopolistic competition compared with that under perfect competition. So that gets us towards the end of today's episode. We are ending here the second part of the chapter of monopolistic competition, and we'll see you again discussing about our next part of the same topic on more wide variety. Till then, have a great time. Thank you for watching. Bye.